ladies and gents. I am going to rebuild this Cal Spa GE Power Right pump. Don't have a whole lot of luck building these, but we're going to give this one a shot and maybe give you a little insight on what to do. Stay tuned. Alright friends, so on this Power Right pump, this is a 56 frame, and the way we're going to determine that is we'll measure across the back and I'll show you. If you measure across the back, it's a hair more than 6 inches. That's a 56 frame. And the other way you can tell is it's got 5/16 inch through bolts. Those are 5/16, so this is definitely a 56. This has got a Power Right wet end on it. You see these ribs. It looks like a cross between a Stay Right and a Vico, but this is very much a Power Right, and it's also got a little bleeder down there. So if you measure across the threads, this is 2 inch by 2 inch, so it measures 3 inches on the outside. And so I'm trying to turn it. This thing's actually stuck. I could turn it, but it's very, very hard to turn. So I think the front bearing's bad in it, so we're going to take it apart and we are going to put a bearing in it if it's bad, and we're going to go from there. The first thing I do is mark my wet end as opposed to the plate, and I also mark the plate as opposed to the body of the motor, because I want the plates to go back exactly where they were, and I also mark this. So you can see that this is at 12 o'clock. You can do this at 12 o'clock, you can do this at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and I may have that backwards because I'm looking reverse, but you know what I'm talking about. So I want it to go back exactly like it came apart. Alright, so I've got it all marked. The next thing I'm going to do is take my through bolts out. Well, you know what, I'm not going to do that first. I'm going to take the, I'm going to try to turn the impeller out. So this is 7/16. And these through bolts on this particular wet end, you can see they have the nuts will pop out on the back, so you can just push them and pop them out like that. Pull the bolts out. And there's a little washer on each one of them, so try to make sure you keep up with the washer. There's 5 total. So then you can pull the face off like this. And this does have a, it has a gasket or an O-ring inside here that little lip right there pinches. That's how it seals up. And you can see what it looks like on the inside. Got one more bolt that did not come out, one more nut. We'll see if I can jar it out of there so it doesn't get missing. Here it is right here at the top. Because if you don't check it and you start moving around, you'll lose it. So you can see that doesn't sound real good. And these pumps are so weak that if there's anything binding, they really can't turn them. This is a 10 amp, and it may not have anything but just a seal messed up or something of that nature. But I'm gonna see if I can break this loose. I'm gonna hold it with my screwdriver, a bigger driver. Not going to try to come loose. So the next deal is, if you can't hold it, and it's really hard to hold it with a screwdriver no matter how big it is, that really doesn't work very well. So I'm going to change this over to my 5/16. I'm going to pull my through bolts out. You know, we've already marked it. So there's your 4 through bolts. Just slip them out and put them over to the side. Boom, 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 a boom yow. Alright, and the first thing you do is take the back cover off. And the way I do that is I'll take a brass hammer and just a little flat screwdriver of some sort. It doesn't take much effort. Just bang it like that right there, and you see it came right loose. And you want to be careful. Some of these have switches in the back and some don't. I don't think this one does, but we're going to find out. And this one does have a switch in it, but it's actually not anywhere around. You see, a lot of times they'll have a switch that's right here, and you see it's not in that place. Now it does have a wave washer right there. There's a little washer, but the grease is holding it in, so don't pull that out. But if it falls out, it goes right here. And what it is a wavy washer that holds the end play of the bearing forward. So now we're going to pull the whole stator out, and the way we're going to do it is just take that same flat screwdriver and just gently tap it. Doesn't take much effort. And you can see that I can just grab this and just pull the whole stator out. You see that? So now, if you bear with me, we're going to get set up with a vise so we can get the impeller off. And I'm going to set this motor over to the side. So that's what it looks like inside. This one's pretty clean, so I think we can make this thing go. So I've got my vise up here, and you can see that's a vise. And you don't have to squeeze it tight. I'm just going to put the stator part in here and just put a little pressure on it to keep it from moving. Just a little squeeze. Then you can just grab this and probably just twist it off my hand. Well, it's tight because the stator, even though I got pressure on it, it's still moving. And I may not be able to do this with my hands. The other tool that I use is, this is a pair of oil filter pliers. I've had these pliers for over 30 years, and I used them in the car business, and now I'm using them in the hot tub business. You see, that works like a champion for that right there. So there you go. And now this will come off because this is held in. Now what was happening is, you see how this is swollen up? See, that bearing is not bad. You see how smooth that is? So the bearing is not the issue. What the issue is this swelled up and got caught inside of there. So on the back of it, if you see, there's a little thing here that's real thin in the middle. I take this off. This does not need to be there. So we're going to clean this impeller up, put a new seal on it, clean this shaft up, and we'll put this bad boy back together and have her running in a jiff. Stay tuned. So what we're going to do is I'm going to address this right here. This is an issue, and what I mean by that is, this is something that I don't think you need, and I generally take them off, and it just screws in. I put a pair of pliers on it, and you can see it's got two little tabs on it, and I pull it out. Get that out of there, and then there's a little piece right here, and I take all that crap out of there and then knock this out and put a new seal in. There's the old seal. But all this extra stuff in the back, all that did was it got caught on that and stopped the pump from turning. So you don't need this stuff. They used to do, back in the day, Cal's tried some stuff. They tried a water cooling the back of the seal, which is crazy. They actually had a pipe with water going to the back of the seal, which you can imagine created a catastrophe. And it's just, I don't know why you would even try stuff like that. The normal procedure, the normal way works. So on the impeller, I'm going to take the seal off, and it's being a little bit hard to get, a little tight. I'll go with the bigger pair of pliers. It's like the bigger hammer theory. If that pair of pliers doesn't work, just get a bigger pair. Just kind of turn it and break it loose. There we go. And you can see that it leaves a little rubber bushing piece right here. So what I'm going to do is, and they've siliconed this thing, they've sealed it on there pretty good, so you have to really work to get it off. And we're going to seal the other one on as well, but we got to clean this one up. And you can see this impeller is actually not hurt. It's in good shape. If it's split out and there's not enough there to put the seal on, I would change it, but this one actually looks very good. So what we're going to do to clean this up is I take something like a wire brush and just kind of clean around the edge of it. And even a little sanding block. I keep a sanding block with me a lot of times. Take a little flat screwdriver and kind of chip this trash off of here so you get a nice clean seat. And if you happen to have this kind of pump and you do need to see how to put a bearing in it, this one didn't need it, but I have other videos of other brands where I have put a bearing in it, like a Waterway brand. And it's not the exact kind of pump, but it's similar enough that you can use it as an example of how to do yours. So I'm going to round my stuff up, get this all cleaned up, and we're going to put it in. Stay tuned. Alright, so what we're going to do first is we're going to put the ceramic part of the seal into the volute, which is the back part. I've cleaned it up. Remember, I removed this little piece from it. You don't need that. So all we're going to do is just simply put a light coat of silicone. Don't need much. You just need silicone is slick, of course, but it also hardens and creates a seal, and it keeps the seal parts from spinning. So it doesn't take much, just a little tiny bit on there, enough to slicken it up where you can push it down into the volute. And this part here will be done, and we'll go on to the impeller. And on this particular thing, I use a 1-inch fitting. You just find something that'll fit it. 3/4 will fit this particular one as well. And all I'm trying to do is just push it down in there, let it bottom out, and let it seat completely. Now the next thing I'm going to do is clean up the silicone. A little bit will push out, just don't get it on the ceramic. And you can see that's a properly installed seal. And as I said, on the back you don't need it because this seals completely on the part. Now the next part is you have this spring part. And this is actually backwards from Waterway. A Waterway, the spring part is in the volute and the ceramic part is here. Almost every other seal and every other wet end is this way. So this is the way that most of them will be found. Now what I'm going to do on here is actually put the silicone on the shaft of the impeller. Just a little bit. Doesn't take much, but it slickens it up where I can push it on. And it's just got a little rubber gasket. What I'll do is just spin it till it bottoms out. And so it's just that simple to put that seal on. So you can see it's bottomed out. That is a proper install on that seal right there. So stay tuned. We're going to put the motor back together. We're going to clean the shaft up, and then we'll put all these parts back in. Alright, so now we're going to put this back together. I'm going to put the stator back in so you can see that. You see how smooth that is? There's nothing wrong with that bearing, so there's no issue there. We've just got to clean this shaft up. So you basically just slip it back through, going easy. Remember your marks, line your mark up. You see I'm going to line that faceplate up with the mark. And then the back plate, you see there's a mark there too. Make sure your wave washer's in there. Mine is because there's so much grease it didn't move. And so we're just going to kind of ease it together. Take my brass hammer and just kind of snug it. And this doesn't have to be perfect as far as getting it together ahead. When you put the through bolts in it, you'll be able to pull it tight. You're just trying to get the basics. So what I'm going to do is stick my through bolts. Right now, we just need 2 because we've got to power this motor up and clean the shaft up. Alright, so I got my through bolts through. Now I'm going to put the nuts on the 2 through bolts. And what we're trying to do is just hold the motor together while I clean the shaft up. So I only put 2 through bolts in it. What we're going to do is get them started by hand and then zip them up. Just don't over tighten them and don't pinch your fingers. Take your hammer then and just kind of tap around. Make sure that the case halves are all together. Alright, so that's all together. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I have a tap. This tap is a 3/8 by 16 UNC, and I'm going to clean this shaft up because the shaft you can see got dirty, and I'm just going to basically thread chase it. And you can see it's not bad, or the shaft would actually spin when I was trying to thread chase it, but you want to do that to clean it up and get that part ready. Now I'm going to take this back cover off, which is a 1/4 inch nut, and we're going to hook it to 115 volts so you can run it. Now another way you could do this is you could just simply take this and plug it back into your tub and power up and clean the shaft up using the tub. The problem is if you have the newer Cal Spa with the M7 sensors, it'll power the heater with no water movement, and it could theoretically damage the heater, sensors, melt plumbing, that kind of stuff, so I don't recommend that. So I'll show you how we're going to do that. Stay tuned. See, friends, this right here is the diagram on the GE pump. 1 is common, which is going to be the white wire. It says line right there. And then you've got the next line, you've got high speed, which is going to go to 3. Low speed is going to go to 2. So the red would go to 3, black would go to 2, white would go to 1, and then green would, of course, go to the body ground. Alright, so I showed you the diagram. What I'm going to do now is unhook these wires, and I'm going to hook up this little setup right here, which is just a wall plug, and it's only 3 wire. And of course this is a 4 wire, so I'm going to take the common off, which is number 1 on this particular pump based off of the diagram. Put that one there. I'm going to take the low speed one off, which is the black. Black is usually low speed, red is high usually. I'm going to hook that up, and then I'm going to unhook the ground. And we are going to power it up and clean the shaft up, and then hook the wires back up. So that is how you do it, friends. Just remember, black is usually high, red's usually low. Almost everything, there's 10% of them out there are red is low and black is high. But that is how I'm going to do it. I'm just simply going to plug this in, and we're going to power up and clean the shaft up, and then I'm going to hook my wires back up. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to power up. You can see I'm just plugging into a drop cord, 115 volt. But be careful now, this stuff can shock you. And it's going to ramp up really slow because this is such a weak little motor. It'll take a second to come up to speed. Now the first thing I do is I take something like a pair of pliers that's hardened, and if you hit this with it, it'll knock all of the, and of course wear your safety glasses, you see safety glasses, but it'll knock all of the big rust off of the top. You see that? It'll just scatter it. But see how weak that motor is? I can stop it with that pair of pliers. I should not be able to stop it. The next thing I'm going to do is take this wire brush and just kind of clean it up like that right there. And then take this file and try to take, what happens is it gets a little bit of a bump in it right here, and so when it gets rusty, so I'm going to take that bump out, I'm going to flatten it. Make that nice and clean wire brush. Alright, when you know that it's right is, I'm going to unplug it and stop it. You should be able to take your impeller and just simply, and you can see how clean that looks. You should be able to just screw it right on and it go all the way to the top and just bottom out with very little effort. And you can hold it back here with your flat screwdriver, but you see I was able to get it on there and it bottom out with very little effort and unscrew it with very little effort. That is how you want it to be. So stay tuned. I'm going to clean all this up and turn it around, and we're going to put the rest of the pump back together, and we're going to be done momentarily. Alright, so now I've put all this back together. I put my wires back where they came from, put my plate back on. That is finished. So now I'm going to take my through bolts back out. I'm going to take the nuts off of them. I'm going to leave them in there. Put my other 2 through bolts in. Get them ready for the volute. See, there's chambers side by side here, so if you're not careful, you can't get the through bolt in the center chamber. It takes a second to line it up. But that's why it's important to mark your covers so you line them back up just like they came apart. If you don't, this part will not work out and it's a real pain. And even though I lined it up, it might still be in a pain. There it goes. All right, so you remember that we marked the cover. We marked here, we marked here, we marked the volute. So you can see that there's my mark on the volute. So we're going to stick this back through and put the through bolts in, finger start them. And it's plastic, so don't zip it hard, zip it easy. Finesse, not power. Alright, so I've got the volute back on. You see I've got the new seal part. So now we just take the impeller and it turns on right, lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. And take your flat screwdriver and put it in the back. And just run it up and you see it turns. See how free that is? A while ago when we were trying to turn, remember it wouldn't go like that. So that is properly built and complete. Now we're going to put the front back on and I'm going to clean the dirt out of it. And I like to put just a little bit of silicone on here before I put it back together, because remember there's a seal, there's an O-ring up in this little groove right here. So it doesn't take much, but just a little bit is going to help. It also makes it slick and helps it to slip back up in there. Doesn't take much. And also remember that we marked the face plate. You can see that there's a mark right there. So it lines up that way. Put your bolts in. And remember the nut goes in the back. They come out, so you'll lose them if you're not careful on this type pump. One long bolt. It's the only one that's different. And there's one that I couldn't get it's got a little washer that looks like that, and one of them, the washer's stuck in the plastic, so we'll have to deal with it in just a moment. And usually if that's going to happen, it'll be one of these bottom ones, and it happens to be that one, so that's the one that the washer's already there. Alright, ladies and gents, that is a completed seal replacement with a stuck impeller, but we were able to reuse the impeller. There she is. Alright, I am the Spa Guy, and we successfully built a Power Right pump, a GE, and a Cal Spa. We have parts for this. If you click the banner above right here, it'll take you to our website where the parts for this pump are. I don't know much, but I do know hot tubs. I am the Spa Guy. We're Hot Tub Parts of America. Go there now.